Voy a cambiar inglés para presentar a nuestro primer huésped. Gray, come up here, please. I met Gray a couple of years ago at the World Future Society, and I was quickly astounded about the way he manages the future. Gray is one of the lead futurists in the US, and I'm personally proud of having him here because I know he will change forever the way you look about the future. I personally, myself, some of you think I'm a little bit crazy. That might be partly because of Gray's ideas who have quickly changed the way I see about the future. So please give a round of applause for introducing our first guest, Gray Scott from the future.
Morning. So many beautiful people from around the world. Welcome. I want to start my speech today talking about three diverse areas of the future, because often people ask me, what does the future look like? And I always say, which one? The future is broken down, as I see it, into three distinct areas: the personal future, the local future, and the global future. Sometimes those interact with each other, and sometimes they're highly personal. So it depends on where you're from. You can say the future of Dubai looks very different than the future of Paris, for example. But often our personal futures look very similar. We all want to be healthy, we want our children to be safe, and we want a world that's better for our grandchildren than the world that we live in now. Can we agree on that? So the three areas that I'm going to talk about today are the smart home of the future, the ecological, thank you. I'm going to talk about the smart home of the future, the ecological home of the future, and the robotic home of the future. So the first idea here is the smart home. We've all heard about it, and some of you are probably working in this space. But the thing that's interesting is that we're in the age of conversational AI right now. Alexa, make an appointment. Siri, check my calendar. That is conversational AI, and we are already in that future. The next step in this evolution towards smart homes and smart buildings is what I've been calling relational AI. This is artificial intelligence that goes deeper than just making appointments. This goes into the heart of who you are. It knows who you are. It has your family history, your desires, your personal intentions. And sometimes that relational AI is private. Sometimes you only speak to it in private moments in your home, and sometimes it follows you to the office where it has professional context. It wouldn't ask you about the party last night at work, if you understand. So that's where we're headed with AI. It's going to keep getting smarter. Every surface in the house will be computable and display information. The next step in the smart home evolution is the predictive analytics phase. And this is obviously a lot of what I'm talking about today is controversial. And my message has been from the very beginning that we have to educate ourselves about the technologies that are coming, because it is each of our choices to decide which future we want to live in. That is the point of my message here today to you. So the predictive analytics phase goes even further than the conversational or the relational AI. The predictive analytics phase goes into a place where the AI that resides in your home is way past Alexa, way past Siri, and this AI can predict your desires. And I know that sounds like science fiction, but it's already happening on social media. How many of you have been looking on social media and been thinking about a specific thing? It could be a product, it could be a person, it could be a place, and suddenly there it is on your timeline, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. That is predictive analytics, and it is in our lives right now. The next phase of that is predicting what you desire from your environment. What temperature is your favorite temperature in the house? What are your favorite products? Were you thinking about or looking at a product, and does a drone show up with that product in sample size for you to test? That's where we're headed. The Internet of Everything, of course, we've all been hearing about this, and some of you may be working in this space as well, but the Internet of Everything is literally what it says. Everything will compute in the future. Chips are getting smaller and smaller, and so every object that you touch, every chair, every table, every glass, every pencil will compute. It will have a chip in it, and it will be reading its environment, its interaction with you. So this last one is interesting, wireless energy. So when architects are building buildings now, they have to think about where the wiring's going. Where will the plugs be? Where will the outlets be? Where will the switches be? But we're actually moving towards a wireless energy transfer future where you can have one hub that transfers energy to your phone no matter where you are in the room. It can transfer wireless energy to any object that needs to be powered. So the days of outlets are numbered. We're looking at a new world where the house looks like the one that you're seeing. No outlets, no switches, everything is done in conversation. You are just having a relational experience with your home, and that is the future. So the next step of the smart home evolution is obviously VR, AR, and holograms. So we're already in the VR, AR space. We have virtual reality headsets, we have AR on our phones. Most of you probably have an AR system on your phone right now. But the final stage of this is the hologram stage. And there are holograms that exist right now, mainly for advertising, but that will become cheaper and cheaper so that builders, developers, and architects can put this into their buildings seamlessly so that we are constantly interacting with holograms in the future. So instead of doing Skype interviews with your friends or your colleagues, you're going to have a hologram that's three-dimensional, that is life-size, that you can walk around, and where they will follow you as you move around the room. So this is the future of the holographic home. So as I said before, all surfaces will display micro OLED and OLED technologies. It's going to make it very easy for builders and developers to add smart walls. So the days of wallpaper are numbered, unfortunately. The days of building with wood and concrete are going to be replaced by transparent walls, transparent OLED systems that display information so that your AI, the predictive AI, the conversational AI, will follow you room to room if you need it to. So zero chore shopping is interesting. So time is the most precious asset we have, and how much of our time is wasted by shopping for things that are mundane that we do over and over and over again. Toothpaste, deodorant, soap, all of the things, cleaning supplies for your house. These are all of the, what I'm calling chore shopping. That's going to disappear in the future, and the home, using predictive analytics, will know the brands that you like. It will read the chips that are in the Internet of Everything, and it will deliver it via drone to your apartment or to your house seamlessly without you ever thinking about it. So in the future, as Amazon grows, as other delivery systems grow, you will have the idea of shopping will sort of, in that realm, will sort of fade to the background. You will just go to your pantry and those supplies will be there. So the quantified health is interesting. The idea that the house could be monitoring your health and reporting directly to your doctor or directly to your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or any device that you're wearing. Any wearable could be tracking and quantifying your health and predict illness before it happens. Catch cancers before they happen. As extraordinary as this sounds, there are toothbrushes that can read your saliva because they are smart toothbrushes. There are toilets that can read your urine. And all of these things, there are wearables that you can wear right now that can track your perspiration. So the wearable and quantified field area will communicate directly with your house. And so you're going to have this relationship with your home and in the future where it's advising you as a doctor would. So the relationship to our home is becoming much more intimate in the future. So the brain-computer interface is exactly what it says. The idea that we are using either microchips or headbands, EEG headsets, to read our brain waves, and that uses the information in the house, the AI, to turn on the lights. So this is even further than the conversational relation AI. This is just controlling the house just by thinking about it. And this is happening now, and I told a story earlier in an interview, and I want to repeat it here. 5 years ago on my birthday, I sent an invite out to my friends, and I said, come to my birthday party, we're going to fly a drone with our mind. My friends show up, we start drinking, they think I'm kidding, I bring out the drone, I bring out the EEG headset, we put it on, and it's more difficult after you drink, but as we're focusing on the drone, just through the thoughts alone, the drone takes off and starts flying in my apartment. The brain-computer interface is the future, whether that's something that we wear or whether it's something, let's say, like Elon Musk has talked about, where we implant the chip inside of us. That sounds frightening, but it is part of the future that we're headed towards. Micro-farming. So micro-farming, using small pieces of the kitchen to grow micronutrient plants. That's basically what it is. So it means just grow where you are, having fresh food grown in your kitchen. 3D printed food. I was at CES, if you guys have been to CES. This was 2 years ago, I think. I had the world's first 3D printed piece of chocolate, and it was delicious. Drone delivery, again, everything's going to be delivered just in time, so if you run out of toothpaste, if you run out of soap, that can be delivered to your house within a couple of minutes. So this is another part of the OLED display system. So for the real estate people in the room, how often do you get a prime piece of real estate with a beautiful penthouse? It has this view, but that's the only one. And you have 3 buyers that want that view. That's what they're paying for. They want the view of the penthouse. But what if I told you that in the future, you could have 15 or 20 units that had this view? Real time, real view. The way that we accomplish this, by the year 2035, you're looking at unit 3A. You're not looking at the penthouse. This is a micro OLED display system with micro cameras outside the building facing out that track your face and track your eyes so that it actually acts as a parallax system. So as you walk up to it, you can actually see down because the cameras on the penthouse are tilting down. This could be an internal wall, but you're getting the penthouse view. So micro OLED display smart walls with eye tracking technologies, micro external and internal AI cameras with 3D parallax systems. Now, this is interesting too. It doesn't have to be the building that you're in. If these systems are put on buildings around the world, suddenly you can say, Alexa, show me Dubai, if you live in Paris. This is the future of the view in most of our homes. We're going to be able to control what we see and what our environments are. So the next step in this process is the ecological step for homes. Carbon capture. We all know that climate change, if you look at what just happened to Florida in the last week, and you see what's happening around the world, we have to remove carbon from the air. And as builders, you have a great responsibility and a great opportunity to build with products that actually absorb carbon out of the air. It's very simple. One thing, you build the building, you add this technology in, and it consistently pulls carbon out of the air. Solar and kinetic. So the home of the future will be solar, and it will be kinetic. So for example, there are high traffic areas in every home. So in every home, as you're walking, usually it's a hallway, or a kitchen even, because a lot of people use their kitchen every day. The floor panels in the kitchen could have just enough movement, enough kinetic energy, so that as you're stepping over those panels over and over again, it's collecting energy to run the lights in the house. There's a company in New York called PaveGen, and PaveGen actually makes panels that they put on the sidewalks. So they've used it in several installations so that when crowds, let's say at a concert, are walking over these panels, think of all the people that walk. Even when walking here today into this conference, if you imagine the floor having some sort of kinetic harvesting potential in a building, think of the energy that you could produce just from the foot traffic. It's the kinetic energy that's collected in the future home will be able to power lights and run small spaces. So dematerialization is the idea that we are building the same structures with less material. And this is important for builders and developers because obviously for cost, but also for the environmental impact. So I'm sure some of you have heard of carbon fiber, you've heard of new materials that are lighter, stronger, and this is the future. This is actually where we're headed. We're headed towards a future where dematerialization is being used in structures, in cars, in spaceships, and we're going to have stronger products, stronger homes that can withstand natural disasters that we've been seeing recently. Microfarming, we've already talked about. Biomimicry, technology is natural and nature is technological. So the Earth is over 4 billion years old. The Earth has had 4 billion years to figure out how to do it right. We've not been here that long. We should be looking to nature to build. We should be looking at nature to tell us, how do we build ecologically? How do we build healthier spaces for people to live in? And the biomimicry movement is an extraordinary way of approaching building and developing properties. So atmospheric water harvesting, this has been a real issue because we've seen drought take over different parts of the country. In crisis, if the power goes out, your pump doesn't work, you can only live for several days without water. So what if you could grab the water out of the atmosphere? So right now in this room, there is a certain percentage of water in the air, and there are machines today that can grab the water out of the air and produce filtered, drinkable water. What if we added those to the buildings? So then instead of piping water into the building is producing the fresh water for us. Bring the water to you was the past. Develop the water where you are is the future. Desalination, of course, we need to be thinking about this because we are running out of fresh water sources. Microfarming, we've talked about. Disaster resistance. So there was an incredible image this last week of a house in the hurricane that was standing on the beach by itself. All the other houses had been flattened, except for this one house. And I read an interview with the builders, and they were saying that they intentionally built this because they had survived other hurricanes, and they wanted this building to last. And the process of building, just making a few alterations, changing how much the hangover for the roof was on, to make sure that the wind couldn't get underneath and pull the roof off. Just adding a few more bolts, just doing a few little tweaks, kept that house standing. It's the only house in the neighborhood that was left. And so disaster resistance is going to be a huge factor in the future that we have to think about, and it's not just hurricanes. We've seen tsunamis, we have seen typhoons, we have seen earthquakes destroy cities around the world, and disaster-resistant technologies have to be addressed. So this is microfarming. I've mentioned it a couple times, but I wanted to show you examples. And I actually saw these two examples at CES 2 years ago. And I've actually used microfarming in my kitchen. So I can grow, in 7 days, I was able to grow enough micronutrients to have for the full week. So instead of having my food sit on a truck for a week, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I live in New York City, so sometimes it's 3 weeks. Instead of having the food sit there for 3 weeks on a truck, I'm cutting the food and I'm eating it within minutes. So you're getting the nutrient from the food immediately. I think microfarming in every kitchen should be a thought, and maybe even in every event space and building space. Microfarming should be something that we are looking at to increase the nutritional value of the spaces that we live in. Light transmitting concrete. I love this idea, and eventually when I build my house, I'm going to use this light transmitting concrete because I love concrete, and for anyone here that builds with concrete, I love the aesthetic of concrete, but I don't necessarily love the darkness that it creates. And so what if we could bind the two and have spaces like you see in the corner where it's the beauty of concrete, but you still get the beautiful shadows and the light coming through, making the space much more brilliant and ecological. Fiber optic solar. using the sun's natural rays and pumping the fiber optics into the building, into internal spaces that don't have access to natural light. Again, you're using the sun's natural value instead of building infrastructures to light rooms. 3D printed homes of the future. This is absolutely where we're headed. The thing that is interesting about this is that you can use local materials to print with 3D printers for the home. So instead of trucking in the materials, you use what is sourced locally. So a smaller footprint and a more ecological way of thinking of building. So I stayed at a property in Utah. There's a property out there called the Amangiri. And the Amangiri actually used the local sand of the desert to build their walls in the space. So it was a really interesting, they didn't 3D print it, but the idea of using locally sourced materials to build your buildings, that is absolutely where we're headed. So nomadic, experience is the gold of the future. As we become more nomadic, which we are, all of you have your computers and your laptops, you're all working remotely as you're here this week, I'm sure. And we can be anywhere as long as there's an internet or wireless router. The thing that makes nomadic futures and nomadic homes so interesting is that we are just about to reach 5G. The idea that 5G is coming and it's just around the corner, and that we could download a movie, a full-length high-definition movie, within 2.3 milliseconds instead of 2 minutes. Anywhere in the world, in the middle of the ocean, you can be having a holographic conversation with someone in New York City. That's what 5G is going to bring us. And so suddenly, we're free. We can work anywhere in the world. So why not choose to live anywhere in the world? You can live on the ocean in your movable nomadic home of the future. Vertical cities, this is another part of the ecological idea. Using a very small footprint and still giving people everything that they desire on a vacation or a city experience. So everything that you need in a city is built into this space with a very small footprint. So now we get to the last of the ideas, which is the robotic home revolution. This is actually a real product. This is a chef bot. This is a robot that will cook your dinner. And the way that this works is that a trained chef typically will train the robot, and they can do this remotely, using haptic gloves. They will cook the meal. The robot will record the movements, and so all you have to do is provide the ingredients, press a button, and it is cooking you a chef-quality meal in your kitchen of the future. So drones, we've talked about. Pet bots, we're going to see a lot more robot pets. We're going to see a lot more security bots to protect your developments and your real estate properties. You're going to see cleaning bots. One of the areas that we're going to see pretty rapidly is laundry bots, which is, this one is called Laundroid. And this machine will actually recognize the fabric, fold, and sort depending on the family member. So it actually uses AI to understand which piece of clothing belongs to which person and gives you folded, ready to go, your kids' clothes, your wife's clothes, and you're ready to live in the future. So I wanted to thank you for your time, and I just want to say quickly that part of my responsibility as a future is to educate, but I'm happy that you guys called me here today to be a part of this, because you are building, literally, you are building the future, and that's very exciting. Thank you very much.